Hello everyone and welcome to today's morning report on Thursday the 4th of May with me, Richard Perry, market analyst at Handset Markets. We've got positive market open on these equities in the European trading session. We've got reaction really to the FOMC last night, also the French presidential debate, the final one before the election, the second round runoff on Sunday, and also we've had strong Eurozone PMIs. All these factors are playing into positive equities today. Fed last night didn't change monetary policy of any real note. They sort of mentioned the fact that the growth slowdown in Q1 was seen as being transitory, and it just expected the recent sort of trends of inflation to continue really. So pretty much as is, and expectations of June rate hike have been sort of bolstered really, still around about 70% there, so still pretty high. And markets have been taking that as dollar positive, treasury yields I should say positive, and equities have also been boosted. You see this interesting uptrend that we've got on the dollar index, held and then broke higher yesterday. That came with the 10-year pulling back higher above 2.3%, the 2-year back above 1.3%. So really interesting moves that we've seen on these treasury yields, which are dollar supportive. The final presidential debate in front of the second round runoff of the French election on Sunday seemed to be that Macron was sort of holding his ground, and if anything sort of did performed sort of quite positively. So subsequently we're seeing an improvement in risk appetite as well, and that's come with Bund yields higher, French yields broadly sort of a little bit ticking higher, but generally speaking that French-German spread is falling, which is generally a reflection of improved risk appetite. So generally speaking, Eurozone equities are positive, DAX outperforming, also the CAC is strong. FTSE 100 is up, but only sort of 0.3%, whereas the DAX and the CAC are over 0.5% higher. So we're all looking pretty positive today. As I said, the dollar is strong. The euro is positive as these PMIs have come out this morning. The service sector PMIs and also the composite PMIs have been pretty much positive. Eurozone services and composite PMIs just mildly beating expectations. German was positive. French not so much, interestingly, but Italian. The services PMI in Italy was very strong, very much better than expected. So, yeah, generally speaking, pretty positive numbers out of the Eurozone, sort of paints a picture of continued positive recovery in the economy. Now, in terms of what we've got to look forward to today, we've got the UK services PMI in a bit. Expected to be 54.5, down from 55, but still pretty positive. Not massively shooting the lights out, but still fairly decent. And then you're looking at the US data into the afternoon, which is the jobless claims 247, mildly improving from 257 last week, and also the factory orders plus 0.4%. So that would be, I think, a third straight month of positive month-on-month gains for the factory orders, and also sort of holding up the recent trend of improvement in the factory orders. So my chart of the day is the FTSE 100. Now FTSE has been sort of lagging really. DAX and CAC are very strong in the wake of this French presidential election, seemingly coming down on Macron's side, but the FTSE has been lagging, and it's sort of been impacted by primarily the UK election really. That was the big bear candle that we had a few weeks back on the announcement of the UK election being held on June the 8th. That was the French presidential election, the first round victory or seemingly victory for Macron. The market's basically consolidated since then, pulled higher a bit early doors today, but sort of back towards this downtrend really. And sort of pointing out the fact that momentum indicators are generally on a medium term deterioration really. You've got a series of lower highs which are reflecting in this long-term uptrend breakdown. You've got the fact that you sort of rallied back towards 7255, which is this old head and shoulders top neckline. The rally high following on from the French first round of the French presidential election, 7,000. Oh, crikey! Come on, Richard. 7,302. Basically means you've got a resistance band 7255 to 7302, and again that's sort of 7280 was today's high before sort of rolling over a bit and back towards that neckline resistance. So it's interesting that the market is again sort of just running out a little bit of steam. I sort of look at this and think, well, it's not all great. Certainly the momentum indicators negatively configured now on the MACD lines. RSI under 50, failing around that 50 point. It doesn't sort of suggest that momentum in the medium to longer term is all that great anymore. You sort of look at the hourly chart. Yes, you have broken on an intraday basis this downtrend, but sort of back into that downtrend now. You look a little bit more corrective, I think, or at the least bit, you're not really gaining the momentum that would suggest you're sort of going to be bursting higher through that 7302 resistance. So I think this is hitting the buffers a little bit, you could argue, for FTSE 100, and prospect of a continued correction. That big sort of head and shoulders top really would be 7,100, and that is the real risk, I think, in the medium to longer term, is that, whoops, wrong way, is that turns into a big head and shoulders top. So you need to sort of be careful of that, certainly if you start to drift away on FTSE, and having also broken that long uptrend, it could be. So something to watch in the coming weeks, I think, on FTSE. So with that in mind, I wish you good luck in your trading today, and I'll speak to you later. Thank you.